In the early hours of Tuesday, October 28th, Rio de Janeiro stopped breathing. What began as the largest police operation in Brazil's history, a mission to crush one of the country's most dangerous cartels, turned into something far darker. The government called it a success. The people living through it called it a massacre. More than 2,500 elite officers, 32 armored vehicles, and a death toll that, depending on who you ask, sits between 117 and 132. Officials say those killed were all criminals, but survivors, witnesses, and human rights groups tell another story. One filled with fear, silence, and blood. This is the untold truth of Operação Contenção, Operation Containment, the deadliest police raid in Brazil's history. To understand how this happened, you have to understand the target, a name that still strikes fear across Brazil, Comando Vermelho, or the Red Command. It started in the late 1970s, inside Rio's notorious Cândido Mendes prison. There, a small group of inmates, a mix of political prisoners and common criminals, banded together to survive. That alliance grew, evolved, and eventually became one of the most powerful cartels in the world. Today, the Red Command controls vast territories inside Rio's favelas, especially Complexo da Penha and Complexo do Alemão. They don't just sell drugs, they govern. They collect taxes. They enforce curfews. They decide who lives and who dies inside their borders. Over the decades, their reach has expanded beyond Brazil into South America, Africa, and even Europe, trafficking drugs, weapons, and influence. This is not a street gang. It's a global criminal network. For the Rio state government, Operation Containment was supposed to be a decisive strike. 2 months of intelligence gathering, careful planning. The mission: execute over 100 arrest warrants, reclaim cartel territory, and restore order before major international events scheduled in the city. But when the sun rose that morning, Rio turned into a battlefield. Police reports say the Red Command fought back fiercely. Barricades set ablaze, automatic gunfire echoing through narrow alleys, and, in a chilling escalation, drones armed with explosives. Officials called it a war against narco-terrorism, but by the time the gunfire stopped, the numbers told a very different story. Police had seized 93 rifles, over a ton of drugs, and arrested 113 suspects, including criminals from other states. Governor Claudio Castro stood before cameras, calling it a resounding success. "We dismantled a criminal empire," he said. But here's the question. If success is measured in arrests and seizures, maybe. If it's measured in human lives, absolutely not. Even by the lowest official count, 117 people were killed. Independent monitors say it could be 132. The ratio of deaths between suspects and police officers was 29-1, a number that shattered every previous record, including the 2021 Jacarezinho raid, which left 28 dead. And then came the testimonies. Residents described scenes that felt like a war movie. But this wasn't fiction. It was their neighborhood. Homes were raided without warrants, bodies left on the ground for hours, families forced to carry away their loved ones because ambulances weren't allowed in. One human rights lawyer said they found bodies with hands tied and gunshot wounds to the back of the head, signs of possible executions. Other reports mentioned burn marks and mutilations, and one story, and impossible to verify but repeated by locals, spoke of a 19-year-old man allegedly decapitated and his body displayed publicly. Authorities denied it, but after decades of cover-ups, few in Rio believed them. Within hours, international backlash exploded. The United Nations called the operation horrifying. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights said it reflected a persistent and brutal pattern of state violence. The message was clear. What the government called an operation, the world called a massacre. In Rio, 86% of people killed by police are black. Most are young men, living in poor favelas, places often treated by authorities as enemy territory. Experts call this racialized policing, a system that automatically sees certain neighborhoods, certain faces as threats, and the double standard couldn't be clearer. When police conduct raids in wealthy districts, everything is surgical. Hundreds of warrants executed, dozens of arrests, not a single bullet fired. But when it's the favelas, the poor, the marginalized, it becomes a war zone. Schools shut down, clinics close, families hide under beds, and after all the shooting, all the blood, crime keeps going. After all the gunfire, one journalist said, everything stays the same. So if these raids don't dismantle criminal empires, what's the real goal? Security experts say they're not just about fighting crime, they're about performing power. Every armored vehicle, every criminal neutralized, becomes a political message, a show of strength, especially in election years when being tough on crime wins votes. But behind that theater are real communities, caught between two sides. The cartels that rule by fear and the police who claim to fight them. For many residents, there's no safety on either side. They say they're protecting us, said one mother, but from who? After the raid, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court demanded answers. Governor Castro was ordered to explain the mission's legality under ADPF 635, a ruling known as the ADPF of the favelas, which limits deadly raids to exceptional circumstances. Human rights groups argue Operation Containment violated that order completely, but the state government doubled down, labeling everyone killed as a criminal, denying any misconduct, and rejecting calls for independent investigation. This is not new. Brazil has seen this before. Carandiru Prison, 1992, 111 dead. Jacarezinho, 2021, 28 dead. And now, Penha and Alemão, more than 100 dead. Every time there's outrage. Every time there's grief. And almost every time there's no justice. But this time, the world is watching and waiting to see if Brazil will finally break that cycle. In Penha, the smoke has cleared, but the pain remains. A mother places flowers where her son was shot. Children walk to school past walls marked with bullet holes. Shops reopen, but the air is heavy with silence and distrust. For residents, every operation feels the same, a promise of protection that brings only fear. Here, one activist said quietly, the war on drugs is really a war on the poor. Until that war ends, until justice becomes blind not just to color, but to class, Rio's favelas will keep paying the price. The United Nations, Amnesty International, and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights are now demanding a full, independent investigation. And some are calling for international oversight if Brazil fails to act transparently. Because this isn't just about one raid. It's about how power operates, how poverty and race decide who gets justice and who becomes just another number in a headline. Operation Containment was meant to crush a cartel, and yes, it did seize weapons, drugs, and suspects. But for the people of Penha and Alemão, it revealed something far deeper, that in the endless war between the state and organized crime, it's the poor who always end up in the crossfire. Was this a justified strike against a violent cartel, or a tragedy that exposed Brazil's darkest truths? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit subscribe, share this video, and stay with us as we keep uncovering the truth behind global crime and corruption. Because understanding the truth is the first step toward justice.